Hello, good people. Let me welcome you to Medzone African Motives. Let me welcome you to Medzone African Motives, whereby today we are going to look at Business Studies Grade 11. We are on Business Studies Grade 11, Term 2 revision. So we are going to make revisions and preparation for the test that you're going to write in June. So we are going to prepare ourselves with the question paper that was written in Limpopo province. So we are going to do business studies grade 11 paper 2. So we are going to do paper 2 for the paper that was written in June 2025. So let us be together from the start and to the end of the presentation. That is that. So without wasting much time, let's go straight to our instructions and information. So here we are on our instructions and information. Please, good people, go through all these instructions. They are very important. Don't attend any question without going through the instructions. So allow me to go straight to the questions. Allow me to go straight to the questions for the sake of time, good people. So here we are on our question one, section A, which we know very well that is compulsory. So question one is a multiple choice question. It's a multiple choice question. As it says, various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Choose the answer and write only the letter A to D next to the question number. 1.1.1 to 1.1.5 in the answer book, for example, 1.1.6e. So that is that. So now let's start. 1.1.1, the problem solving technique. The problem solving technique is applied when business want to change their structures. So we have these problem solving techniques. So we want the one that is applied when the business want to change their structure. So we have these given techniques: brainstorming, empty chair, nominal group, force field analysis. So the correct answer there is force field analysis. D is a correct answer, force field analysis. So force field analysis is used when a business wants to analyze forces that support or resist change in the business structure. So that is why we are saying it is the correct answer. For example, a company checks the advantages and disadvantages before changing from a private company to a public company. So that is that. Let us move on to 1.1.2. The employees of the TG trading apply the principle of dash by responding to consumers' request. So the employees of the TG trading apply the principle of dash by responding to consumers' request. Professionalism, customer care, ethics, professionalism, and ethics. So the correct answer there is A, professionalism. Professionalism. So the employees of TG Trading apply the principle of professionalism by responding to customers' request. So we know professionalism means employees behave properly and respond respectively to customers' needs. That is that. For example, workers answer customers' complaints politely and quickly. That is to show professionalism. That is that. 1.1.3, recent business procedures and policies can be regarded as an example of the cause of change. We have internal, external, market, and macro. So the correct answer there is internal. The correct answer there is internal. As we know that internal causes of change come from inside the business, such as policies or procedures. So, for example, a business introduce new workplace rules for employees. So that is internal. So business procedures and policies are found internally. in the business. So that is that. 1.1.4. The shareholders of Maxwell Construction Ltd offered securities for the first time to the public. This is an example of offering primary, secondary, tertiary, as well as formal. So we want the correct answer, and the correct answer is primary. That is primary. So the shareholders of Maxwell Construction Ltd offer securities for the first time to the public. As we hear the word construction, it shows that is in the primary sector. So primary offering happens when shares are sold to the public for the first time. So that is that the company lists on the stock of exchange and offers shares to the investors. So that is that. So now let us be on to 1.15. The company that provides essential services such as water and electricity at affordable prices. So we have state-owned, private, public, and personal liability. The correct answer there is A. It is state-owned. A state-owned company is controlled by government and provides essential services like water, as well as electricity. So that is that. So also you can talk of, for example, you can talk of ESCOM supplies electricity to the public. So that is a state-owned company. So let us move on, good people, to 1.2. Let us be on 1.2. 1.2 read as follows. Complete the following statement by using the words in the list below. Write only the words next to the question number. That is 1.21 to 1.25 in the answer box. So we are given these words that you are going to use to fill in these gaps. So we have personality, liability, fixed, patent, retrenchment, private, rent, trademark, royalties, conduct, as well as affirmative action. So now let us start now. 1.21. A dash company requires directors to be liable for their debts, for the debts of the business. So that is a personality, liability. That is personality, liability. So that is personality, liability on 1.21. So hope we get that. That is personal liability. Personal liability. So that is that the personal liability means directors or owners are personally responsible for the debts of the business. If the business cannot pay debts, the owner may use personal assets to pay. So that is what we are saying. It's personal liability. Then 1.22, the ongoing fee paid to the owner of an asset by using the name and trademark is known as, so that is royalties. So the correct answer there is royalties for 1.22. That is royalties. So we are going to write 1.22 there next to it, write royalties. So we know royalties are payments made for using someone else's trademark or idea or product name. For example, a franchise owner pays monthly royalties to KFC because you know KFC is a franchise business. So the person who's going to use the name of the KFC, who's going to carry on with that name, he's going to pay what you call royalties. So that is that. So now let us go. That is the fee that is paid by the person, by the franchisee to the franchisor. That is that. 1.23. Business can take out dash for new inventions and include sample of their invention with application. So the correct answer there is patent. So that is patent 1.23. 1.23. So we are saying it's patent. It's patent. So 1.23 is patent. So we know patent protects a new invention from being copied by others. So an inventor patents a new cell phone design. So it means it's patent that is going to protect that new invention for being copied by others, for being copied by others. 1.24 Timothy Trading applied the code of dash when they employed suitable people to fill in vacant position. So Timothy Trading applied a code of conduct when they employ suitable people to fill a vacant position. So that is a code of conduct. So that is 1.24. 1.24. That is a code of conduct. Code of conduct. So the correct word there is conduct. So a code of conduct gives rules on acceptable behavior in the workplace. For example, employees must arrive on time or treat others respectively. That is a code of conduct that we're talking about. 1.25, a Kasango Limited is providing opportunities for previously disadvantaged people. This change managed, this change management is known as, it is known as affirmative action. It is known as affirmative action, that is 1.25. So we are saying it's affirmative action. So that is that affirmative action. So we know affirmative action gives opportunities to previously disadvantaged groups. So a company hires more workers from disadvantaged communities. So that is that. So now we are to move on now. So now let us move on to 1.3. Let us move on to 1.3. So 1.3 reads as follows. Choose a description from column B that matches a term in column A. Write only the letter A to J next to the question number 1.31 to 1.35 in the answer book. For example, 1.36K. So we have column A. Which we know that these are the terms, and column B, these are the description. So let us start with 1.31, crisis. So now we are going to look at, good people, the description that is going to match this term crisis. So that is that. So now let us go through all of this description together from A to J. So crisis, you can see now, if we are still looking together with people, that C is a correct answer. C is a correct answer. So C is a correct answer, as it says, unforeseen event that can cause major changes in the organization. Unforeseen event that can cause a major change in the organization. So a crisis is an expected or event that can negatively affect the business. So we can talk of a fire damages the company factory. That is a crisis. So we are saying C is correct. C is correct. So that is that. So let me write it clearly so that you all can see. We are saying the correct answer there is C. So for crisis. So now let us move on to another term. So now we are going to 1.32 prospectus. So now we're going to look at the description that do match a prospector, and you can see D is the correct description for a prospector. D is a correct description for a prospector. As it says, it's a document containing information about the company and the shares to people interested in buying shares. So that is that. So prospector is a document giving information about company and its shares. So for example, investors read prospectus before buying shares. So that is what we are saying. D is correct. Now we have problem solving 1.33, problem solving. So let us go for problem solving, and then if you can see and you can go through all this, you can see problem solving that F is correct. F is correct for 1.33. As he said, the process of finding solution to a problem is a problem solving. So that is why I'm saying F is correct. So here we have said D. So here it's F. So now let us move on. 1.34, notice of incorporation. Notice of incorporation. So if you can go through all these and look at them, you can see B is the one that is correct. Notice of incorporation includes the number of directors of the company. So this document contains the important details about the company, such as directors. So, for example, the notice states how many directors the company has. So that is why we are saying B is what is correct. So now let us go to 1.35, principles of ethics. So principle of ethics, you can see that A is the correct answer. Respecting the image of the business. That is that. That is a principle of ethics. So ethics are moral principles that guide correct business behavior. For example, business treats customers honestly. So that is that, good people. So now let us move on to section B. Let us be on section B now. Section B. So section C says answer 2 questions in this section, but you are going to attend to all of the questions. Then the note clearly indicate the question number of each question that you choose. The answer to each question must start on a new page. For example, question 2 on a new page, question 3 on a new page. So question 2 is about business ventures. The first question, 2.1, name any 4 aspects that must be included in the prospectus. Name any 4 aspects that must be included in the prospectus. So we do have our answers here. So here is our section B answers. Question 2, business ventures. 4 aspects that must be included in the prospectus. We have company overview, including the vision, mission, and goals of a business. So now we're talking about company overview. Explains what the company does and its goals. That's when you're talking about the company overview. It explains what the company does and its goals. For example, a company explains that it sells clothing nationwide. That is that. Then we also have product or service portfolio. Also, it must be included in the prospectus, product or service portfolio. So product and service portfolio shows the products and service offered by the business. It shows the product and service offered by the business. For example, a bakery sells cakes, bread, and muffins. So that is that when you're talking about product or service portfolio. That is whereby it shows product or service offered by the business. So that should as well be included in the prospectus. Market analysis and strategies. Market analysis and strategies. Market analysis and strategy. With market analysis and strategy, uh, this explains the target market and business strategy. It explains target market and business strategy. For example, a business targets teenagers through social media advertising. So we want to know that. And that should be included in our prospectus. It's one of the aspects that should be included in our prospectus, market analysis and strategy. Management team. Management team. So this provides information about managers and directors. So the prospectus, for example, lists the CEO and financial managers. So that is why we are saying it is very important to have this aspect in our prospectus. So that is that. As you're going to know the CEO of the business, you're going to know the financial manager of the business. So hope we are together on that. So now let us move on. So another one is the risk and potential of the business. Risk and potential of the business. So the risk and financial and potential of the business. So the risk should be stated as well as the opportunities that are there for the business. Like we are saying, the potential of the business. Available financial and share information. So available financial. So financials of the business should as well be included in our prospectus. Companies' assets, the assets that the business have, as well as their liabilities, should as well be in the prospectus. Financial position, where is the business financially, should be there. The profits that and losses that of the business should as well be in the prospectus. So that is that. So now let us be on our 2.2. 2.2 says identify avenues of acquiring a business illustrated by the following statement. So you have to identify the avenues of acquiring a business illustrated by the following statement. 2.21. Mr. Monama hires financial accountant from Nduna auditors to audit his financial records every financial year. So by so doing, Monama is hiring a financial accountant from outside because Ndoma is hiring that person from Nduna auditors to audit his financial records every financial year. So it means here we are talking about outsourcing. This is outsourcing. This is outsourcing. So that is that. So it's outsourcing. Outsourcing means bring another business or person to perform certain task. For example, business hires auditors from another company. So that is outsourcing. 2.22. Sitsuiki Manufacturer signed a contract with Malesela Properties for the use of their property for a specified period and will pay every month. So this one is what? It's a lease. This one is a lease. So when you talk of a lease is an agreement to use property or equipment for a payment over a period. For example, a shop rents office space monthly. So that is a lease. So that is that. So 2.23. Selaelo was given the right to offer the same products as Shohol. So trading for a percentage of his gross monthly sales and royalties fees. So this one is what is a franchise. It's what? It's a franchise. This one is a franchise. As we are told that Selal was given a right to offer the same product as Shohela Trading for percentage of his gross monthly sales and royalties fee. So it's a franchise. A franchise allows someone to use another company's name and products for fees or royalties. So that is that. You can talk about a person who opens Debonair's Pizza franchise. So that is that. So we do have those answers here. Outsourcing. That is when you hire an auditor from outside. This as well as franchise. Those are our answers for that question. So now let us be on 2.3. 2.3 says read the scenario below and answer the following questions. So we have the Divine Empire Proprietary Ltd. So it says the Divine Empire Ltd is planning to change its company status to the Divine Empires Ltd. So this change will enable them to invite public to purchase shares. So now we are to answer the questions now. So 2.31, identify two forms of ownership that are applicable to Divine Empire. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. That is question 2.31. So we have private company. Here we have private company. A private company does not sell shares to the public. That is what you know. As it says, the Divine Empire Proprietary Ltd is planning to change its company status to Divine Ltd. So we have private company and public company because we can see now it says Divine Empire Ltd. We can see even this suffix Proprietary Ltd. It is for that is a suffix for private company. That is a suffix for private company. That is why we are saying we have a private company as well as public. We have private and public. Public because it says this private company is planning to change its status to Divine Empires Ltd. So this suffix limited liability tells us that now we have how many? We have these two companies. The other one is public now. Public company. So those are two companies that we can identify from this scenario. So that is that. So now we can go on to our answers. Um, Forms of ownership from the scenario. So it is a private company. So it is a private company. So that is that, like we have said. So the Divine Empire Ltd is planning to change its company status to the Divine Empires Ltd. It's planning to change to public company. So we also have what? A public company. This change will enable them to invite the public to purchase shares. So that is our two motivations. So now let us move on to 2.32. Discuss the advantages of Divine Empire Ltd as a form of ownership. So it means now we're going to talk about what? A public company. We are going to talk about a public company because they are changing to a public company. So we are going to have what? The advantages of public company. We are going to have a advantages of public company. So the first one says the business has its own legal entity. That's the first advantage of public company. So the company exists separately from owners. The company exists separately from owners. Easy to raise funds for growth through the sale of shares. So it means money can be raised by selling of shares. For example, investors buy company shares. Shareholders is only liable for the amount which is invested, or shareholders have limited liability. So we're talking about limited liabilities. Shareholders only lose the money invested. So a shareholder is not responsible for company debts beyond shares bought. They are only going to lose the money they have invested, but not their personal belongings. The public has access to the information, and this could motivate them to buy shares from a company. So, I mean to say shares can be transferred. Owners can easily buy or sell shares. So that is that. That is, shareholders can sell and transfer their shares freely. So that is that. Also can appoint a knowledgeable board of directors, someone with experience, someone who's competent enough to lead. So buy and sell shares freely. That is that. Additional shares can be raised by issuing more shares or debentures. A strict regulatory requirements to protect shareholders. So any other answers relevant to the characteristics of public company are accepted. So now let us move on to 2.4. Let us be on 2.4. 2.4 it as follows. Outline the contractual implications of franchise. Outline the contractual implications of franchise. That is 2.4. So here we are on 2.4, contractual implication of outsourcing. So some details should be addressed in an outsourcing agreement. So the responsibilities and rights of both parties. Responsibilities, rights and responsibilities. So meaning to say both parties must know their duties. For example, the auditor must complete reports on time. The length of duration of the contract. So the agreement must state how long it lasts. For example, a contract runs for 2 years. So that is that. A confidentiality clause to protect privileged information. So confidentiality clause protects private business information. For example, employees may not share information. Employees may not share customer information. Payment terms and conditions. So the contract must explain payment conditions. For example, the business pays 10,000 monthly. Penalties for not delivering the agreed services. So there should be a charge for failing to deliver the agreed services. An exact description of the service or product. So the product should be described, should be explained. So the features should be explained as well. So that is that. So any other relevant related to the contractual implications of outsourcing is accepted. So now let us go to 2.5. 2.5 say describe the disadvantage of franchise. Describe the disadvantages of franchising. So let us be on the disadvantages of franchising. Disadvantages of franchising. So that is 2.5. Disadvantages of a franchising. They're saying acquiring a franchise can be expensive initial layout, expensive to start. Expensive to start. Buying a franchise may cost a lot of money. For example, franchise fee 500,000 is required, let's say. So that is what we are saying. It may be costly. There are often restrictions in the agreement, terms of how business should be operated. So here we're talking about what? The restrictions now. The restrictions, in fact. So restrictions, the franchisee owner must follow rules. The franchise owner must follow rules set by the franchisor. So the franchise owner, so here we're talking about the franchisee, must follow the rules set by the franchisor. So the shop must use approved suppliers only. So you see that is you are restricted to go only to certain suppliers where you're going to buy your inputs, your ingredients. So that is the one of the drawback or disadvantage of a franchising. Many creative entrepreneurs feel limited as to how much they can expand their ideas. Limited creativity. Owners may not freely use their own ideas. For example, menu changes are not allowed. So if your if your franchise is, let's say, KFC, McDonald's, so you'll be restricted now to not to change menus, buy from certain suppliers, so stuff like that. One poorly performing outlet. So you're saying one poorly performing outlet may risk the reputation of the entire franchise. So here we're talking about poor reputation affects all outlets. So one bad branch can damage the whole franchise. So poor service at one outlet affects customer trust. That is that. So if people buy from KFC and it was not tasting okay, so they are going to say all the KFC are the same. So that is that. A large portion of profits is paid in royalties, and often the franchisors do not deliver on their promises. So a large portion of profits is paid in royalties. So you have to pay part ways with a large portion of profit that you're going to pay royalty fees. And often the franchisors do not deliver on their promises. So you find that even the franchisors, their promises are not delivered. They are just promising that you're going to do like this. Whereas you as a franchisee, you're paying a large portion of profits. It is often difficult to sell or terminate a franchise contract. So it is very difficult to sell it, even to terminate it. The startup cost many be a challenge without assistance from a franchisor. So you need the assistance from franchisor. So that is that. So now let us move on to 2.6. 2.6 is advise business on the reasons why entrepreneurs may decide to purchase an existing business. Reasons for purchasing an existing business. That is 2.6. That is 2.6. So 2.6 is all about what? Reasons why entrepreneurs decide to purchase an existing business. So as it is easier to raise finance if the business has a good history or image. So easier to raise finance. Banks trust business with good history. So that's the start. So you'll enjoy a good reputation of the business. Immediate cash flow, as they are already established customers. Customers are already there. So you are not going to look for customers, do a lot of research trying to find customers. They are already there. So immediate cash flow is there. So the business already has customers. So that is that. Sales continue immediately after the purchase. Market research has already been done. So there is an established customer base. So established market in short. The business is already known by customers. Supermarket already has a loyal shoppers. That is what we are trying to say. Distribution of supply links or staff or network are already established. So that is that. Experienced. So that is that. We are saying distribution, supply links, staff. That is when you talk about employees. Experienced employees, workers already understand the business. So that is that. A market for business products or services has already been established. Many business problems have no existing employees and managers may have experience they can share. That is when you're talking about experienced employees. So many problems have already been solved. So you're going to not find it difficult because the problems already been solved by the previous owners. So that is that. Hope we are together on that, good people. Um, Hope we all understand that. So this is our question 2.6. That is there. That is all about question 2. Then we are to move on to question 3. So we are on question 3, and question 3 is all about business roles. So question 3 says list 3 causes of stress in the workplace. So the question wants us to list 3 example of what? 3 causes of stress in the workplace. So that is what we are expected. That is what we are expected. So let us go to our answers for that question. For that question, as it says, 3 causes of stress in the workplace. 3 causes of stress in the workplace. So that is that. We have, as it says, heavy workload or unrealistic targets. So that is too much work causes pressure. We know too much work causes pressure. Long working hours. So we know working many hours can also cause fatigue. That is that. Also, we can talk about time, pressure, and deadlines. So, as you know, short deadlines increases stress. For example, workers rush to finish reports. So that is that. Also, we have inadequately trained subordinates. So we find that our subordinates, they are not well trained. So that as well can be a cause of stress whereby our subordinates are not well trained that they can deliver at workplace. The necessity of attending meetings. So that as well can be a problem. Work demands intruding on family and personal life. So that is that. Keeping update with new technology. So you'll find that for employees to keep date with new technology, that stresses them. So when they are to respond to the latest technology, conflict with those in the business with different beliefs and values. So we know in the workplace, we have people with different cultural backgrounds as well as their beliefs and their views. So that as well brings what is stress, whereby now they brings what the conflict, those clashes, taking work home. So if you are to also take the work home, whereby now you're going to complete work home, you're going to do work while at least you are at home where you need to relax, where you need to be with your family. So that brings a stress because now when you want to give time to your family or do whatever that is needed to you at your home, now you have to do the work. Interpersonal relationship with colleagues. So that also causes a stress in the workplace. The amount of travel required by work. So if the work requires you to travel, So it increases stress. So if you have to travel, you have to take long distances traveling to do the work. Incompetent boss. So if you are supervised by the boss that is not fully competent, that is stressful again. Bullying or harassment. So if you have those managers, supervisors, those people with senior positions who are bullying, so that as well can be a stress. Confrontations and conflicts, not enough training, inadequate training. So that is that. So now let us go to 3.2. 3.2 says identify theories of ethics applied by Power of Designers Ltd in each statement below. In each statement below. So the first one, 3.21, employees are treated with respect and dignity as one of the human rights in the workplace. So here we are talking about the right approach. Here we are talking about the right approach. So with right approach is that focus on respecting human rights. So focus on respecting human rights. So that is that. So that is the right approach that we are talking about. So also 3.22, good actions are viewed as ethical since they have positive effect on their employees. So here we are talking about common good approach. This one is common good approach. Common good approach. So with this approach, you are saying action should benefit everyone. For example, a company provides safe working conditions. 3.3, 3.23, the business values and ethical principles are in line with society in which it operates. So this one is a consequential theory. 3.23 is consequential theory approach. So we are saying it's conse is consequential theory. So it's consequential theory. So wherever we are saying judges actions by their results. So for example, a decision is ethical if it benefits workers. So that is that. So we can come here and then see those. Like we have said, it's the right approach, the common good approach, consequential theory. So those are theories of ethics that we have identified. So read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. So now we have to read the scenario now and then answer the questions that follows. Then we have a lazy manufacturers, LM. The lazy manufacturer has been declined in sales over the past few months because of poor quality products. So they have asked the team of experts to recommend ways to enhance their product quality. That is that. 3.31, identify the problem solving technique applied by MM. That is applied by LM. That is lazy manufacturers. So motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. So that is 3.31. That is 3.31. So we are to do what? To identify the problem. We are to identify the problem solving technique. So that is a Delphi technique. So that is a Delphi technique because we are saying, let's say they have asked a team of experts to recommend ways to enhance their product quality. So that is Delphi technique. We know with Delphi technique that experts are asked individually for solutions to problems. So specialists suggest ways to improve product quality. So that is what? Delphi technique. That is Delphi technique. So we can come to our answers. There you can see it's what? Delphi technique. As it says, motivation, MM requested the group of experts to suggest solutions on how to improve the quality of their products. So that is that. So now let us be on 3.32. Advise the management of LM on other ways in which they can apply the problem-solving technique identified above in the workplace. So that is that. So now we are to go there, 3.32. So we are talking about the application of Delphi technique now. So as it says, business must invite a panel of experts to reach the complaints from customers. So you are to invite what experts. Experts are selected to give advice. For example, engineers analyze production problems. So that experts do not have to be in one place and will be conducted individually. So it means that our experts answer questions independently. So we can make use of questionnaires. So experts will complete online surveys, for example. So design a questionnaire consisting of questions on how to improve the quality of their product or service or distribute it to the panel of members or experts. Like we have said, they are not to meet face to face. They have to give their views while they are still in their respective places. So it means we can develop a questionnaire so that they can try by all means to complete that questionnaire. Request the panel to individually respond to the questionnaire, suggest improvements to the product, and return it to the business. So that is that you're going to request the panels um, to individually respond to the questionnaire. So that is that. The questionnaire that you have developed as a business. So they were going to uh, complete it while they are at their various places. Summarize the responses from the experts in a feedback report. So you summarize feedback report. Responses are collected and reviewed. So management, for example, prepares a feedback report. Send the feedback report and a second set of questions or questionnaire based on the feedback report to the panel members. So you send the second one. That is now the second one is based on their responses now. So you send the second questionnaire after they have responded. So you're going to ask them based on what they have given to you. Request the panel members to provide further input, ideas on how to improve the quality of the products or service after they have studied the results and or documentation. Also distribute a third questionnaire based on previous feedback from the second round. So that is that. So you always send what the questionnaires whereby now you are basing yourself on the given feedback of the panels. Prepare final summary feedback report with all methods to improve what quality of the products. So that is that. So then you choose the best solution or proposal after reaching consensus. So that is that. Any relevant answer related to the application of the technique is accepted. So now let us go to 3.4. 3.4 says, explain the benefits of creative thinking in the workplace. Benefits of creative thinking in the workplace. So that is that. So now let us be here. Now, benefits and advantages of creative thinking in the workplace. The first one, complex business problems may be solved. Solve complex problems. So creative ideas helps business overcome challenges. For example, a new marketing strategy increases what? Increases the sales. Creativity may lead to new inventions which improve the general standard of living. So creativity may lead to new inventions. Creativity may lead to new inventions. So meaning to say, uh, with creativity, you're going to have new ideas that are going to improve the standard of living. So that is that. Better or unique or unconventional idea solutions are generated, So business develop innovative solutions. For example, a company designs eco-friendly packages. That is that. Also may give business competitive advantage if unusual or unique solutions or idea strategies are implemented. So you're talking about unique ideas help business stand out. For example, a shop offers online or ordering before competitors. So that is that. So managers or employees have more confidence as they can live up to their full potential. So managers, they will have confidence because they will now live up to their full potential. That's being creative. So that improves confidence. Employees feel proud of their contributions. So workers become motivated after solving problems. That is that. Managers will be better leaders as they will be able to handle and manage changes positively and creatively. Managers or employees can develop completely new outlook which may be applied to any tasks they may do. That is that good people. So also this leads to more positive attitudes as managers. Employees feel that they have contributed towards the problem solving and improve motivation amongst the staff members. So they are going to feel valued because of they are taken into consideration, because of they can come up with ideas, they are allowed to bring in their input. So that is that managers and employees have a feeling of great accomplishment, and they will not resist or obstruct once they solve problem or contributed towards the business, towards the success of the business. Also, management or employees can keep up with fast changing technology. Also stimulates the brain function of employees, managers, as they are continuously pushed out of their comfort zone or improving the total well-being of employees. So that is that. So now we are to go to 3.5. So now we are on 3.5. 3.5 differentiate between good decision and bad decision. So that is where we are now. Differentiate between good decision and bad decision. So that is that we are to differentiate between good decision and bad decision. So we have a good decision. Good decision maintaining high levels of integrity. That is good decision. So we maintain high level of integrity. So that is that ethical decisions benefit people of the business, but bad decision not considering values. So that is that an ethical decision some others or the businesses. So a good decision honoring professional business practices. So that is when you honor the business um, professional business practices, but with bad decision, insufficient or erroneous information. So that is that. Not starting a business venture at the expense of others. So you don't start a business at the expense of other people. So by so doing, that is a good decision. So bad decision that is violating customers' privacy. So if you're going to disclose the customer's privacy, that is a bad decision to do that. Payment of fair wages. So if your remuneration is very fair, so that's a good decisions, and you're going to attract good packages, attract competent employees. So that is that. But bad decision demanding, damaging the environment. So if you are polluting the environment, that is a bad decision. So good decisions also not discriminating against employees. Avoid discrimination at all. That is that. But bad decision that is when you do price fixing. So once you do price fixing, charging higher prices because you want to fix the costs that you incurred, that is a bad decision. Regular payment of tax. So if you regularly pay tax, you're not hiding, you are not doing tax evasions, that is a good decision. But with bad decision, that is when you are doing tax evasion. whereby now you are hiding some of your financial statements, you are falsifying your financial statements so that you can pay less tax. So that is a bad decision. Reducing environmental pollution. So if you try by all means to keep the environment safe, that is a good decision. Here, cloning animals or people. So if you clone animals or people, it's a bad decision. Importing goods that have been produced by factories with fair labor practice. That is that. Bribery, when you do bribery, that is a bad decision. So that is that. So now let us go to 3.6. 3.6 says discuss the benefit of working with others to solve problems. Discuss the benefit of working with others to solve problems. That is that. So now let us go to 3.6. Let us go to 3.6. So 3.6, it was all about discuss the benefit of working with others to solve what? To solve problems. So that is that. So let's quickly go to the answers for 3.6. So here we are on 3.6. So the first one on 3.6 is that the problem can be solved faster and easier. So it means many people help complete tasks quickly. So that is benefit of working with others is because of the problem can be solved faster and easier. So a team solve customer complaints together. That is that. Workload decreases if everyone does their share. So that is that. More ideas. Different people contribute different solutions. Also, more ideas can be generated, increasing the chances of finding the best possible solutions. So that is that. If we are working with ideas, it means you are going to have pool of ideas are going to be generated. So this will increase the chance of finding the best possible solutions. So we are going to have a quality idea that we are going to implement because more ideas are going to come from other people. Exposure to other people's thinking patterns and to the way other people approaches problem. So exposure to other people's thinking patterns. So you're going to learn from others. So that is that. That interaction is very important because it helps us to learn from others. Enables team members to learn from others. So that is what I'm just talking about. And accept their points of view. Greater results can be achieved, like you're saying, because we are going to be working with others. So there are high chances of that you're going to come up with a great result. Team members have access to a broader base of knowledge, skills, and expertise. So you're going to enjoy that. We're going to have a broader skills and expertise. That is that you're going to now enjoy those people with different or various skills. The problem is viewed from different perspectives. Problems are analyzed and in a greater detail and which lead to better understanding. And this will promote creative thinking and idea generation by thinking as many ideas as possible to solve problem. So that is that. So now let us go to 3.7. So 3.7 says recommend ways in which professional, responsible, ethical, and effective business practice should be conducted. So that is that. So here we are on 3.7. 3.7. Ways in which professional, responsible, ethical, and effective business practice should be conducted. As it says, business should treat all employees equally. So meaning to say no discrimination should, okay, all workers receive equal opportunities. Plan properly and put preventive measures in place. So make sure that you plan properly to try to put preventive measures in place. Pay fair wages and salaries which are in line with minimum requirements of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. That is when you're talking about BCEA. So we need to say employees should receive proper salaries. Workers are paid according to the laws. They must be paid according to laws. That is that. Also, it says remunerate employees for working overtime during public holidays. So make sure that employees, when they are working overtime, they are paid for that extra hours that they are working, and as well as during the public holidays, they should be paid. Engage in environmental awareness program. Refrain from polluting the environment, for example, by legally disposing toxic waste. So make sure that you do engage in environmental awareness programs. So try by all means to refrain from polluting the environment. So that is that. Refrain from starting a venture using other business ideas that are protected by law. So please don't steal other people's ideas, more especially if they are protected by law, because you find yourself being charged or paying fines, or you can even go to prison. Then the business decisions and actions must be transparent to all stakeholders. So make sure that the business decisions are transparent. Business decisions and actions are transparent to all stakeholders, employees, suppliers, investors. So such should be transparent so that they can understand the way the business operates and stuff like that. Business should be accountable or responsible for their decisions and actions, as well as patent rights. Hiring honest and trustworthy accountants or financial officers with good credentials. Also, regular as well as timeless payment of taxes. Draw up good code of ethics or conduct. So rules guide proper behavior. Employees sign workplace conduct policies. That is that. Ongoing development and training for all employees. Performance management systems appraisal should be in place. Also, enough or adequate internal controls, monitors, as well as evaluation. So that is that. So now we are to move on to question 4. Now we are to be on question 4 on business ventures, as it says, mention 4 aspects that must be included in the memorandum of incorporation. Mention 4 aspects that must be included in the memorandum of incorporation. So here are our answers. 4 aspects that must be included in the memorandum of incorporation. We have incorporators, that is incorporation, nature of company. We know that this states the type of company. For example, the company is registered as a public company. Securities of the company also should as well be there as an aspect that must be included in memorandum of incorporations. Shareholders and meetings. So meaning it explains shareholders' rights as well as meetings, like annual meetings that are held yearly. Directors and officers. Also, directors should be included. So list of directors and managers. Name of the company, that is that the name of the company should as well be indicated. Main objectives of the company. So that shows the goals of the business. The company aims to come, for example, the company aims to expand nationally. So that is that. Number of shares each incorporator will purchase. So that is that. Amount of share capital registered, rules and regulations of the company, as well as the name of the auditor. So now let us be on 4.2. 4.2 outline the challenges of establishing company over other forms of ownership. Challenges of a company. Challenges of company. So let us be on the challenges of a company, of establishing company over other forms of business ownership. So we want to know those challenges. The challenges, like we're saying, as it says, directors may not have personal interest in the business, and this could prevent the business from gaining maximum growth and profits. So that is that. We're talking about where directors may have personal interest in the business. They may have their own personal interest, and this is going to harm the production of the business. So that is that. Directors who do not have personal interest in the business may not attract investors. So directors who do not have personal interest in the business may not attract the investors. That is that. There may be conflict between the owners of the company and management in the control. So you'll find that there are disagreements that may occur. Managers want expansion while owners want profits. So that is that. So the more shares there are, less profit per share. So the more there are shares, the more the profit also is going. Because if you have more shares, those people, they are going to need returns on their investment, which are the dividends. So that is that. A company is required to submit full report to all stakeholders each financial year. So that is that. So the report that is required each and every financial year, that is that. The limited liability aspect of the company generates more paperwork in the registration process. More paperwork, company must meet legal requirements. For example, annual reports must be submitted. That is what we're talking about, more paperwork. The owners of the company have more liability. So owners of the company have more liability. They have more liability. When directors change, when directors change, there could be a lack of continuity in the management. So if directors are going to change, so it means our continuity is going to somehow lack. Companies have more taxation requirements and other taxes are high. High taxes. Companies pay different taxes because we have corporate income tax is charged as well. They are required to disclose all financial information, which could provide their competitors with an unfair advantage. So, because companies are expected to disclose their information so that information can be stolen, or competitors still can steal that information and make it and use it at their advantage. Politics can get in the way, and managers are appointed for the wrong reasons. So that is that. And as well, we can talk about state-owned companies often deliver non-profitable services that lead to government losing money through the business. So that is that, because they are only just providing services, they are non-profitable services. So that leads to government losing money through the businesses. So a company can stop existing if deregistered by the registrator of companies. So large amount of money or funds is spent on financial audit and accounting fees due to government regulations. So that is that for 4.2. Let us move on to 4.3. 4.3, we are to explain the characteristics of partnership. We are to explain characteristics of partnership as a form of ownership. Characteristics of partnership. So that is that 4.3. So here we are on characteristics of partnership as a form of ownership. As he says, an agreement between two or more people who combine labor, capital, and resources towards common goal. So partnership is formed by two or more partners. So partners run the business together. That is that. You talk of two friends open law firm. Those are partners. Partners combine capital and may also borrow capital from financial institutions. So they are as well can borrow money from financial institutions. They combine their capitals together. No legal requirements regarding the name of the business. So it is easy for you to establish the business, to be in the partnership, because there are no legal requirements for the name of the business. So you can just name your business as BCC. But with um, companies, you know, it should end with limited, it should be end with proprietary Ltd, those suffix. But with partnership, there is no such. Partners have unlimited liability and are jointly and severally liable for debts of the business. So they have unlimited liability. So partners are responsible for debts. So partners may use personal assets to pay debts. So that is what it says. Profit is shared according to the partnership agreement. Profit sharing, profits are shared according to agreement. Partners divide profits equally. Partnership do not pay tax. Partners or pay personal outcome tax. So that is that. Auditing of financial statements is optional. Auditing of financial statement is optional. So you can even go without making use of auditing, unlike in companies where it's a must for them to have their financial statements being audited. Here with partnership, it's just an optional. Partners share responsibility and they are all involved in decision making. So they are all involved in decision making. No legal formalities to start. Only written partnership agreement, that is partnership deed, is required. The partnership does not pay income tax, only the partners in their personal capacities. So unlike in public companies or private companies, we know that they pay those corporate tax and stuff like that. So with this form of ownership partnership, only partners are paying that in their personal capacities. Diversity or specialization and different skills of the partners can be used. Partnership has no legal personality, therefore has no continuity. So it has no continuity. If one person dies, or the partnership starts from the beginning, or it as well dies. Partners share responsibility and they are all involved in decision making. So that is that. So hope we are still together, good people. Hope we are still together. So let us go to 4.4. 4.4. 4.4 says discuss three advantages of leasing for the lesser. Listen for the lesser. So that is that 4.4. So let us attend to 4.4. A 4.4 advantages of leasing for lesser. Advantages of leasing for lesser. That is where we are now. Advantages of leasing for lesser. So let us be on those advantages. So as it says, leasing improves the cash flow of the business. Leasing improves the cash flow of the business. That is that. Continuous income. The lessor receives rental payments regularly. So a company has monthly rent from machinery. Leasing is regarded as an expense for the leasee. So is therefore not regarded as a debt. So it is an expense for the leasee because it's going to pay rent. So it's therefore not regarded as a debt. So the lessor receives a continual rental income. So the lessor is going to receive the income from the lessee. That is that. That is the advantage that is going to get. The lessor can get quality discount by buying goods in bulk to supply various leases. So the lessor can get quantity discount by buying goods in bulk so as to supply various leases. So the asset can be returned to the lessor when it is no longer needed. That's the advantage because you are still going to get what? That a asset. Makes budgeting and planning easier and it provides better control over cash flow. So easier cash flow, regular payments improve finances. Monthly lease payments support business operations. That is that. Also retains ownership of the asset, which can be sold to recover money at the end of the lease. So that is that. There is no large financial outlay as the cost is spread over several months of the years. So the lesser normally covers the maintenance or replaces any damaged parts of the equipment. That is advantage to the lessee. So there is a tax advantage as rental payment are calculated as operating cost, and it is easy to lease a better and newer version of the product without capital outlay. So these are the questions for 4.4. So now let us go and attend to 4.5. 4.5 business rules. Give three internal causes of change. Give three internal causes of change. That is that internal process of change. So let us go to our answers. So here we are on our answers, business rules, internal process of change, new business objectives or goals. So we are talking about new policies, business introduce new rules, company, for example, changes leave policies, that is that. High employee turnover where many employee must join the business. So high employee turnover where many employees must join the business. So that is one of the causes of change, internal causes of change. New policies or procedures implemented in the business. Then you're going to have new management. So new leaders may change operations. Restructuring is going to take place as well. Retrenchment, and then where workers may lose jobs due to restructuring. And new equipment, then we are to buy new equipment. So that is that. So now let us be on question 4.6. Let us be on 4.6. So 4.6, we are to read the scenario as it says, read the scenario below and answer the questions that follows. So we have Masai manufacturers. Masai manufacturer specializes in producing sneakers. So the Masai manufacturing recently experienced a breakdown in machinery, leading to a decline in productivity and sales in the workplace. So now the question says, identify examples of crisis from the scenario above. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. So that is that. So that is a crisis. Crisis. A crisis is serious unexpected problem affecting the business. Like machinery breakdown cause lower productivity and sales. So that is a crisis because we have read this statement together and then we are told that the recently experienced breakdown in machinery leading to decline in productivity and sales. So that is how we can continue that. So like we have said, crisis, there from 6.1, crisis. So that is that. So we are talking about what? Crisis. So now let us go to our answers for 4.61. So 4.61, as we were asked to identify, so that is a breakdown in machinery because the question wanted us to identify example of crisis. So that this a breakdown of machinery, and then as it says, recently experienced breakdown or in machinery leading to decline in productivity and sales in the workplace. So that is that. So now let us move on to 4.62. 4.62. So 4.62 is about outline ways in which business could deal with crisis in the workplace. Ways in which business could deal with crime in the workplace. That is, deal with crisis in the workplace. So here we are, ways in which business can deal with crisis in the workplace. So that is that. So business should respond appropriately and quickly to lessen the effects of the crisis situation. That is that. For 4.62 ways business can deal with crisis in the workplace. So business should respond quickly, should respond appropriately and quickly to lessen the effects of the crisis situation. So that is that. Also, intervene swiftly. So respond quickly is about immediate action, reduces damage. So repair teams are called immediately. So also intervene swiftly with agents, but without panicking or overrating. Identify the real nature of the crisis by making a thorough assessment of the situation and seeking expert opinions. Also seek for expert opinions. That is another way that you can deal with crisis in the workplace. So you identify the real nature, the cause of that crisis. So by doing an assessment of the situation, so also seek the advices from the expert. Assess if the crisis happens face up to it quickly and find out what happened without overreacting. Without overreacting. Deal with crisis directly and timelessly without trying to avoid or minimize the seriousness of the situation. That is that. Plan and identify and prioritize the actions required. Inform or provide accurate, correct information. Support or guide others through the situation by providing training and support. Attempt to contain the situation to minimize further damage. Communicate with all stakeholders so that they are properly informed about what has happened and what impact and how it is being dealt with. So that is that. Appoint a spokesperson from management team who will deal with all questions and provide information. Regain control and manage situation in a calm manner until the crisis is over. Call Also obtain expert advice if the crisis falls outside the business scope of expertise. Call help and seek assistance and advice and support from appropriate agencies and professionals. So that is that. Also, arrange debriefing sessions for all those directly involved in crisis or who have been traumatized by the event. Evaluate the effective emergency plan was throughout the crisis. So evaluate plan, check if the response was effective. Then amend the emergency plan after evaluating what worked and what did not work. So that is that. So now let us be on 4.7. 4.7 says discuss the following major changes that business and people deal with. Then we have retrenchment, we have unemployment. So that is that. So here we are, major changes that business people deal with. As it says, retrenchment. Retrenchment is when a business cuts the number of workers to reduce their wages and salary. So that is that. It happens when workers lose job because of the business wants to reduce costs. A factory dismisses workers due to low profits. Also, it is a process whereby the employer reviews its business needs to increase profits or limit losses, which leads to reducing its employees. Also, it can be about economic change may result in many people being retrenched from their jobs. So that is when the economy changes. The economic downturn can force the business now to retrench its employees. Then we have unemployment. So unemployment Unemployment, that is, it is when employees lose their jobs because they are fired or they quit their jobs. So unemployment is when people want to work, cannot find jobs. That is that. Also, a change can lead to unemployment due to retrenchment. So we can retrench people because of the change, like we can talk about economic change. The or economic downturn can force us to retrench people. A business may close down or sold or merge, resulting to unemployment. Coping with unemployment is dramatic and can lead to depression. So that is the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Make sure that you use this presentation as it is very helpful. Grade 11s. So that is that. Thank you very much.